How's it going, everybody? My name's Warner Fields, and today I'm here in real life down here in Miami with Dylan Sawyer. He is an 18-year-old Amazon seller who's done over $10 million in sales, and he actually just made over $100,000 profit in December alone. So we're going to break that down. But if you want to briefly introduce yourself, man, let us know how you got into Amazon. I know you were flipping stuff when you were like literally an infant, like you were flipping Legos when you were like crawling around. So yeah, let us know how you got into being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, first, thank you for having me on. I started my journey about 5-6 years ago with sneakers. I always had a passion for shoes. I love Yeezys, Jordans, stuff like that. So I saw every Yeezy that was coming out was flipping for pretty much double the price. And I was, okay, I want this pair. If I can get a few more, I can make some money, keep one for myself, and keep the cash moving. So I did that for a couple years until about 2018 when I started to take things more seriously, started my LLC, was going to the mall every day looking for shoes. And in 2020, things started to really take off. I got my first Amex credit card.
So what, you're 15, right?
Yeah,
15,
this is when I was
14, 15? Yeah.
And then my spending power was a few thousand before I got the Amex. And after that, 75,000 right off the bat. So that was a game changer pretty much overnight. So I was doing a lot of sneakers then, and the industry was starting to slow down. And I had a few friends who were getting into Amazon, and we basically split an ungate method for $7,500.
Oh my God.
Just for Nike, go buy 10 quantity on eBay. That was
literally that. I always wondered what was in those ungating guides. Like literally it was just a one-page PDF.
2-3 sentences. Like it was the most simple thing ever. We're like, why did we just pay for this?
That's crazy.
It was honestly the best investment we've ever made because we were in Amazon really early. That was early 2021. So I've been on Amazon for about 3 years now, and I did good volume right from the start. I did pretty much 100K in my first month. I already knew a lot of places on where to buy from doing sneakers. We're selling a lot of the same products like the Air Force One, all that type of stuff. So I was able to transfer that knowledge over into Amazon and do really well from the start.
Awesome. Yeah. And so you guys don't have to pay $7,500. If you need to, I know that's a question on every Amazon video. So if you're trying to get approved to sell a name brand, you just buy 10 units, submit the invoice, and don't pay somebody $7,500 like Dylan had to here. But that's how it was back in the day.
Yeah.
So it would have been, you said 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to be on my third year starting next month.
Awesome. Yeah. A lot more free information for you out there than there was back in the day.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's a completely different game now.
Yeah. So I like what you're hitting on there with community, all that kind of stuff. I really want to get into specifically how you made 100K profit last December, but can you break down how important community is? Talking in person like we are now, like how did you find your circle? What does that do for your business?
Yeah, I think community is honestly probably the most important part about Amazon. Having friends that you can bounce ideas off of, having people that have made mistakes that you don't have to make those mistakes. That was a huge game changer for us. And working with a lot of other sellers has completely grown our business to a level I never thought was possible, especially like with wholesale, stuff like that. A lot of my best accounts are introduced by friends I know. So it's played a huge part in my business. And I think the best way to get into these circles is to just put your face out there and document your story from day one. That first day you open up your account, you need to be posting saying, this is who I am. I'm 18 from this city. You want to just get yourself out there as much as possible. And one thing I've noticed in the past year or so on Twitter is a lot more people are doing that.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting tagged in videos pretty much every day with people who are...
We've been trying to rally the troops, man. We're trying to rally the troops. Yeah.
Working really well. It's cool to see like a growing community.
That's awesome. Yeah. I know you said you're doing a little bit of wholesale these days. Last month when you made 100K profit, how much of that was wholesale? How much of that was arbitrage?
Good question. So about 25 to 30% of that was wholesale, and a majority was online arbitrage. And that's just because we know online arbitrage very well. That was our focus for pretty much the first 2.5 years on Amazon. I'm pretty new to the wholesale space. Started about a year ago and started taking it seriously about 6 months ago. So coming into this new year, we're definitely focused more on wholesale. But when the online arbitrage opportunities are there, there's no reason to not go all in. And we really like doing seasonal products in Q4. So that was a huge part of our sales and profit was like chocolates, decorations, stuff that's very seasonal because not a lot of people are focused on that.
Awesome. Yeah. There's a lot that I want to get into on that, but let's start with scaling arbitrage, right? So if you're brand new to the concept, we're just buying stuff from Nike.com, flip it on Amazon. That's basically a fancy word for that.
Yep.
And a lot of people will say, oh, I'm getting orders canceled and I can't scale arbitrage. Like I can't make more than a couple $1,000s. Like how are you able to get so much product? Is there any kind of sauce you want to drop here for how much you're able to get through? Is it just like learning the websites? How does that work?
Yeah, definitely. So learning the websites is a big part of it. Another huge part is gift cards, Apple Pay, Google Pay. All those are great ways to avoid cancels. We've definitely worked with some sites where they just cancel no matter what I do. If I'm buying 5 to 10 units, they're going to cancel it. And in that situation, I usually just skip them and move on.
They just hate money for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah. If they don't want you to shop with them, there's really no reason to keep on trying. But if you only get canceled like once or twice, it's definitely worth it to put in the effort of trying PayPal, Google Pay, gift cards, switching up your address a little bit. There's a lot of different ways that can help avoid cancels. And one of the other things that helped me scale up a lot doing online arbitrage is actually having someone help out on the purchasing side of things. So what that does is, let's say that there's a product where I'm only able to buy 10 units at a time. What I can do is I can have a virtual assistant or someone I know help out and place all those orders. Because if I want 2,000 units, I don't want to sit there and place 200 orders. Yeah. So once you're at that bigger scale, having someone who can help you with purchasing while you're able to just keep finding more products is super helpful.
Yeah, it's all about pulling yourself out of the business, like getting into that kind of scalability conversation. Figure prep centers, virtual assistants, whatever it is, like you have to make your time as valuable as possible, that's a beautiful thing. That's what business is all about. You don't want to buy yourself a hustle. You want to buy yourself kind of a vehicle to buy other people's time, basically, right?
Exactly. And prep centers are a great way too of outsourcing. In my opinion, most people don't add any value to prep. You can have that outsourced pretty easily. It's not a very high ROI task. Sourcing and repricing, in my opinion, are the most important things you can do in the business.
Yeah, for sure. Repricing's the only thing I still do. I'm working on getting rid of that one. You're working on getting rid of everything else. It'll be awesome. I want to get into the wholesale side of things, obviously, as well. So when did it make sense for you to start looking into wholesale? I know that's a big kind of hot topic, especially here at the beginning of the year. Everybody's the wholesale, it happens every year. Yeah. So when did it make sense in your business to actually divert focus? And when should sellers just stay the course, keep doing arbitrage?
I think doing arbitrage is totally fine until you're about at the $200,000 a month mark. For us, the most we could ever do with OA in a non Q4 month was like 308,000. We could never get the 400,000.
Just the measly 400K, right?
Once you're at that level, it just doesn't really make sense for you to be putting so much time into OA. It's just so much time sourcing. For me to do that 308,000, I was sourcing like 10 hours pretty much every single day. It was crazy how much we were putting into that. And wholesale just makes a lot more sense at that scale where you're able to put in a big PO, 50, 100K, and you're pretty much done with sourcing right there. Like all you need is one supplier and big POs, and that kind of replaces all that time sourcing.
Yeah. So as you've been getting your feet wet in wholesale, you said you made, $25,000 profit about last month, started 6 months ago, which is crazy. A lot of that comes from knowing the products, like all that kind of stuff. So if you're just starting wholesale, don't expect that right away. But
yeah, it was definitely a slow grind wholesale at the start. Like most of the accounts that we opened in the first few months, we're not even buying from them anymore. They just weren't the best. So it took a lot of time of like refining the process and finding the best suppliers to double down with.
How are you going out and finding these? I know you said you're selling a lot of chocolate, advent calendars, that kind of thing. What's your strategy to go contact distributors who are you talking to?
Yeah, so we do a good amount of cold calling when it comes to new brands and products. So we did a lot of that for the chocolate, candy, stuff like that. And we actually did most of that arbitrage. So that's just finding good sales. A lot of this stuff you have to buy early. So September, early October, and they're going to have it on good sales compared to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because the products are going to be at peak demand during that time. So you need to buy a little bit early so that you can have it in stock and ready for them.
Gotcha. Yeah. So seasonals is a big thing that even I like to avoid. Like I don't want to be stuck holding the bag if it's December 2nd and my advent calendars are still sitting there, right? So what is your timeline buying seasonals? I think that's really interesting. How early do you start thinking about sourcing for a certain holiday?
That's a good question. So we mainly do seasonal in Christmas just because it's by far the biggest demand. Yeah. We've done Valentine's, stuff like that in the past, but some of it was just not really worth it. So we like to look at stuff probably 3 to 4 months early on a lot of that stuff. So the best pricing is usually going to be in like August, September, just because it's off season. Nobody's really looking for it during that time. So that's how you can get the best pricing. And we actually made a spreadsheet of every holiday, every sports season, pretty much everything. And we put when I need to buy, when I need to be in stock, when I need to be sold through, like advent calendars, for example. If you have advent calendars on December 4th, December 5th, you're screwed. Right. People want it for the entire month. They want to be opening it every day. So stuff like that, I'll put like need to be gone by December 2nd. So I'll know, I can just check my spreadsheet and be like, oh, I have this many units. I need to liquidate as quick as possible. Because we've definitely made the mistake of holding the bag on like decorations and stuff like that. And I have to wait a full year before I can even think about moving it again.
Yeah. So a couple mistakes in holding the bag there a little bit. So what are the metrics you're looking for? Like how does that liquidation process process work for you? Because I know that's a balance with everything, not just seasonal products. When do you start thinking about making the sale versus holding out, waiting for prices to go up?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I've made that mistake many times of just holding on way too long. And that's why I've created the spreadsheet to know when I need to be sold through of everything. And the problem is with a lot of that stuff, it literally just doesn't move once you hit January. Like it'll sell once or twice a month when it was selling hundreds of times a month in December. So what I had to do is I had to get a storage unit and I filled it up with stuff. That was like one of the worst buys I've ever made on those decorations.
But did you sell them this year?
Yeah, we sold pretty much all of them this year, but never buying that brand again. But I'm still open to doing decorations with some different brands.
Cool.
It was just mainly that one because I loaded up on them and then sent it all to FBA. Literally 2 days later, they did a 30% off sale on everything. Literally all of it.
Damn. Okay, so with the seasonal stuff, obviously there's so many different products on Amazon. Should new sellers look at seasonal? Should they look at other products? Like where's the lowest hanging fruit for the seller watching this video?
I think in your first Q4, it's definitely safer to double down on products that you know sell year round because you definitely will make mistakes once you start doing seasonal products. I've made mistakes before, pretty much impossible to avoid. You need to have that experience, knowing the category, knowing the brand. And I didn't even really look at seasonal products until I was on like year 2. Okay. That's when I really started to focus in on it. And I did a lot of testing that first year. I tried out like 4 to 5 different categories that all had some seasonal products. I wrote down like how quickly it was selling, all of that information so that this year I was able to buy much better quantities. I was able to sell through like literally everything.
Gotcha. So it just comes down to take a year to test, feel it out. I like
and
that.
You can double down in the next year.
Yeah, that's even true with non-seasonal products. Like your first Q4, you'll go in. I know, definitely it's true for me. I'm sure it was true for you. You go in, you buy 200 units or something. It's like, all right, I'm gonna be in stock all Christmas. December 4th, you're out of stock. It's like, all right, I know to stock up. You're gonna have that experience, whether it's back to school, Easter, Christmas, something like that. That's gonna be the moment where it really clicks for you. And that's another question I like to get into with people. Maybe it's even off Amazon. What was that like light bulb moment where maybe it was one certain product, one big flip? Like, do you have a story like that where it's like, oh crap, like this is legit, I'm gonna go all in on this, like this is serious?
So honestly, it wasn't even something that I bought. It was someone showing me the Jungle Scout sales estimation of Nike Monarchs. And I saw that they were selling like 8,000 times a month. This was in 2021. And that just blew my mind. That many people were buying Monarchs on Amazon. So I was like, okay, I'm willing to buy anything. Like I went to the outlets literally the next day and started loading up on stuff. Once I saw the data, I was like, whoa, this is way bigger than anything that sneakers ever got me in like 2017 to 2020. It's just a completely different market.
Are you still doing any of the like formal like sneaker type stuff? What's your angle here for Q1, obviously into the new year? What's your main focus?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna be focused on wholesale. I got out of footwear about a year ago, and that was because the return rate, but it wasn't necessarily because of the return rate. It was because of how I was dealing with the return. I was super slow to check everything out and ship it back out or liquidate it. And I ended up having 1,000 pairs in my warehouse of dirty shoes. And I was like, whoa, this is a huge problem. Like I got to stop buying this right now. And that was December 2022. So I haven't really gotten much footwear since then. But obviously, if it's like a really good opportunity, like 70 ROI, sells 1,000 times a month, I'll definitely load up. But that's only happened like once or twice since then. We definitely want to focus more in on wholesale. And it's something that I'm pretty new to. So the start of the year might be a little bit slow, but we're looking to ramp that up into 400, 500K months before Q4.
At this point, I don't think anyone would doubt that you'll be able to accomplish your goals there. Were you able to sell through those 1,000 shoes you had sitting at the warehouse? You still got
it, actually. Okay, I sold through pretty much all of them, and we did it pretty quickly as well. I sold like half of them to a liquidator for 16, 17 a pair. A good 300 I moved through my mom's store. She's a gift shop, and if they're just everyday shoes like Converse and you put it for a good enough price, it's gonna sell. Like a normal person's gonna walk in there and buy it, even if it's slightly used. They don't really care. And then the other few hundred we were able to clean up, send back to Amazon. So we got rid of all of them. I maybe have 50 pairs of shoes. In 2022 December, I probably had 8,000. So it's pretty wild, like how much everything has changed.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple things you're doing with your returns there. I think that's a topic that people don't really like to talk about. It's super important though. What would you suggest for the beginner who's trying to stay on top of returns? Like where should they be selling it? Like how much of that can you send back into Amazon? Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah. So I think eBay's a really good way to sell like dirty shoes, stuff like that. One thing I like to tell people now though is to avoid products that don't really sell outside of like Amazon and the outlet. Mainly the stuff that we were stuck with were like preschool, toddler shoes, weird colors, stuff that just won't sell outside the Nike outlet or Amazon. And now if I'm buying shoes, I'm trying to buy something that can move anywhere. So Converse, most Nike running shoes are like that. I think that's a really good way to avoid getting like stuck with stuff because we had a lot of stuff listed on eBay that just wouldn't move. Nobody was really looking for that. And then selling to liquidators is also a great way. But if the item still has tags, it doesn't look like very used, you you can just clean it up, make it look brand new. It's still safe to send back into Amazon.
For sure, yeah. So I want to zero in on some hard numbers with your 100K month, getting into super transparent, right? The returns, all that kind of stuff. The next question is, how did he get so much capital? Like, how much capital did you actually spend to make that much money?
Probably around 375 to 400,000, and that was mainly on credit cards. We've scaled those limits up a lot over the years. Like, they'll start you at 50, 75 with Amex at least, and we've built that into the 6 figures. And then also just having a vast array of cards like Capital One, Spark 2%, the Chase, Business Inc. Premier, Amex Plum, Amex Plat. All those are really good, and having different cards that you can put it on and not just loading it up all on one is really useful. And a Plum is really good for that as well, because you can have the balance for an extra 30 days. We use that card a ton. Being able to just consistently pay off your cards, write it up, pay it down, they're going to start to trust you. To be able to have such high limits, you have to have a cosign if you're under 18. It's just not possible without that.
You mean you mean American Express isn't going to say, here's your first car, your driver's license, and 100 grand.
It's pretty funny because I was able to get an Amex under my name like the day I turned 18. That's probably just because I was an authorized user on the card and got the repertoire or whatever the word is.
The rapport, something like that. We're Amazon sellers. We're not like, we're not English pages or whatever. So with those credit cards, obviously you're leveraging a little bit of debt and that kind of thing. Maybe you don't have to do that as much these days, but when did you know you were confident enough to do that? I don't want people being like, oh, it's time to run it up on the Amex, like leverage a bunch of debt. Like, when did you know you were confident enough for that?
I was honestly, that started in the sneakers before I even started on Amazon. And my parents trusted me. I had already been to e-commerce for about 2 to 3 years. And that last year when I was doing sneakers, I did over $1 million in revenue and over 100K in profit. So I already had a good sized business going, and I wasn't really afraid to double down on the knowledge I had with sneakers. So I jumped right into it. But I honestly, it would take me probably a year or two if I started from fresh to like really feel comfortable to put like.
I just want people to be very clear on that. Like, you can use credit to your advantage, but it will mess with you if you don't know what you're doing. Be very confident. Like on Amazon, if you've done at least a year, so you're saying here, maybe consider it, but don't go out like, oh, time to start my business, time to spend 20K on the Amex, like whatever it is.
I came from a very different position with sneakers. Like, I had a $250,000 credit card bill before I even started Amazon. So see the Amazon bill, it was like not a big deal because I was already used to it.
So with that massive profit month as well, I know a lot of sellers will do FBM where they're shipping direct to customer. They're doing a bunch of work in-house. Like, how much of that was that? Was it all FBA? Like, how did that break down?
So this year we did all FBA actually.
That's awesome.
And in 2022, we did a lot of FBM, and that was because I was in a warehouse at the time. In 2021, we also did a lot of FBM. And I think that's an awesome way to flip your cash quickly for new sellers. And that's what I would recommend to pretty much anyone who's in their first couple years on Amazon. But this year, I'm all set up with prep centers. They're not really set up to do merchant fulfilled. It makes more sense to just buy early, load up, and do all FBA.
What changed that decision for you? Is it capital, like experience? Like, I'm going to make the switch. Like, I do the same thing. Like, all FBA. I just didn't want to be messing with it. I was confident. Like,
it's honestly just a hassle. And another thing is too, every time I would do FBM, I would always have late shipment rate, order defect. Some issue would come up on my account. So I figured, another thing is feedback as well. You'll get pretty much all your feedback removed if you do FBA. With FBM, you'll definitely get some negative feedback that you can't take off, even if you didn't really do anything wrong. Proceed with caution, basically. It's a massive kind of a boost to your cash flow. Great to make quick sales, especially if you haven't sold anything yet. List at FBM as soon as possible. You make your sales twice as fast as the guy who's waiting to send it in, but it is definitely not without its headache. You're not supposed to get rich without a couple headaches though, right? So that's what it takes sometimes. Was there anything else that we didn't touch on with that 100K month? Was there any other like gem thing you changed this year that really you're able to implement and succeed with? One thing that really made us a lot more money was maximizing cash back. We got probably like 23,000 in cash back, literally just from Q4. So making sure that you're like starting a new shopping session every time you do a top cash back order or Raxton order. A lot of the gift cards through top cash back, that helped us save a lot of money. Just maximizing that. Like, we definitely got over 25,000 in rewards if you include like credit card points, like Raxton, top cash back. So maximizing that is a really good way to get some extra cash.
So are you buying pretty much everything through like gift cards and all that?
Majority of the OA stuff, I would say we did with gift cards.
That's awesome.
So a lot of it.
Cool. So I really appreciate you dropping a bunch of gems here. If you guys want to go check out Dylan's page, he's posting some YouTube videos, hopefully a lot more this year.
Definitely will.
He's got his podcast as well. So I'll leave his channel link down below if you guys go check that out. Drop him a sub, let him know you came from here. Is there any last words of advice you want to leave for the people? Just one thing they should go take action on?
definitely put your face out there, make a social media account, and network with as many other sellers as possible.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you for having me on.
For sure. Yeah. If you guys enjoyed, feel free to subscribe, like, all that stuff helps me out with the algorithm. Also, let us know if you have any questions. Drop those down below. Always happy to answer those for you guys. But we really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you next time.